All right, now we're going to go ahead and start off with this first image here. As you can see, this is our final image here, and this is the before. So this is the before, after, before, and after. So as you can see, there's not much, retouching done outside of color correcting. But we'll go ahead and you can see some of the images that we had from this shoot. And these are the raw images right out of the camera. Let's see, this was shot. Let's check this out. Our metadata over here, f3.2, shutter speed is 125, and our ISO is 250. I believe this was shot with my Canon 5D Mark III. Let's confirm that. Yep, right here. With the 35mm 1.4 lens. No external lighting. Yeah, just basically ambient lighting that was used for the shot with a pretty wide open aperture, just so we can get a nice shallow depth of field and get some brightness in there. But we'll go ahead and open this up in Camera Raw and get this shot set up for editing and Photoshop. So I'll go ahead and click on this, and once again, just a little disclaimer, I'm working out of my home studio, so if there's any weird background noises or anything like that, you gotta forgive me. And I'm just gonna go ahead and walk you guys through this step by step, basically from start to finish, how the shot was set up and all the way through the post-processing. So we have our shot open here in Camera Raw, and I'm just gonna go ahead and make some small lighting adjustments just to get this shot set up for editing into Photoshop. And let's see here. First we'll start off maybe by getting our white balance. Let's see what the auto tells us. Auto white balance, that's a little too yellow for me, so yeah, I'm not gonna change it too much. We'll pretty much leave it there. Kind of like the contrasting colors of the blue in the background and the oranges yellow tint of her skin. It'll kind of make her pop in the final image once we finish with our color correcting. And let's go here. We'll go to our lens corrections, enable lens profile corrections, so we can make sure we get that distortion fixed and no darkness around our edges. And you can see here, go ahead and automatically loads the camera profile for you when you click that enable profile correction. I am working off of Camera Raw 9.61. It says up here, I believe that's the latest one. Give you all these settings that I have in here so you can follow along. All right, let's see here. We'll go ahead and bump our contrast up a little bit here. Then we'll up our shadows, brighten it up, and our highlights a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good for me. I might bump the exposure up just a tad bit. All right, let's move on over to our color palette here. I'm gonna leave my hues the same. The saturation I might change here a little bit. Let's go on and bring out the blue in the water. So we'll bump that up to about 25. Bump this up to about 30. Yeah, 30, maybe about 35. And we got some green in the swimsuit here, maybe some green in this background here. We'll bump that up a little bit, maybe 30, 35, that's good. Let's go over to our luminance, and we're going to drop down the blue a little bit just so we can get a darker background in there. Drop that down a little bit and darken our greens. And we're gonna brighten our yellows just to brighten that up, get some highlights in there. And I will probably saturate my oranges a little bit too, maybe about 5. We'll go ahead and type that in there. Now we'll go ahead and open this image into Photoshop, and I think we're ready. As you can see, my settings down here, I'm opening the raw file into Photoshop as a 16-bit, and let's go ahead and do that. Open image, put that there. All right, there we go. So here we have our raw image. We can get in here and see. I'm just gonna walk through the techniques that I used for this image, which was fairly simple. We'll go ahead and get right into that. We'll start off by duplicating your image, Control J or Command J if you're on a Mac. Now this layer is going to be our reshape layer. So I'm going to label this reshape. Reshape is usually what I do first. If there's any reshaping in the image that I need to reconfigure and work out, things like that, this is the layer that I'm going to do it on. So reshaping, we're going to our filter, we're going to go liquify. We're going to use our pucker tool. First, you want to look and scan your image and identify the areas that you want to change. Now, you don't want to make any dramatic changes to where you can tell that this image was, altered dramatically. You don't want to change the identity of the person either. You want to make sure that, they look like themselves from the beginning of the image to the end of the image. So here, I'm just going to, because of the angle of the image, she's going to look a little boxy up top, so I'm just going to decrease the space in between the swimsuit here. This line being so wide is a little distracting, so I'll try to bring that in a little bit too. So I'll increase my brush to about the size of the area that I'm working on, and we'll just tap ever so gently. And then we're going to bring this in a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to bring my forward warp tool, and I'm just going to push in the waist a little bit, just to get a nice curve, a nice. Alright, bring that over just a little bit here. I guess the good thing about this is you have water in the background, and water kind of has motion, so you can get away with a lot of things that you couldn't necessarily get away with if you had a different kind of background. Almost done here. Those water droplets we might end up getting rid of later. Alright, and see if there's anything here we need to take care of here. And we'll just even out the lips a little bit. I always like to sharpen the tips of the brows. It's kind of my thing. And we'll try to decrease the edges of the forehead a little bit. The whole point of retouching is to channel focus and eliminate distractions. So a lot of shapes and colors in combination with each other could cause distractions. So what we want to do is channel our focus right in here. That's what we want to draw our attention to. So we're going to go maybe that big. There we go. And then we'll push up. Bring that water up a little bit. You can see what a difference angles make. I think we might open this up a little bit. You can always take your reconstruct tool and ease yourself back into your original image a little bit, in case you decide you did a little too much on certain areas. Alright, we'll hit OK. Alright, so now this is what we have. This is our reshape layer, and this is our original layer. Alright, so now I think I'm going to go ahead and crop this image a little bit. I think I have way too much outside space here. And this is just according to taste. I'll bring this up a little bit as well. So I might bring this in a little bit more. Bring in the side a little bit more, just create a little more of a curve here. There we go. And there we have our reshape layer. Alright, we're going to duplicate our reshape layer here. And we're going to call this our healing layer. And this is the layer that we're going to do all of our skin retouching on, removing any blemishes or any distractions. Let's go ahead and get into that. I'm going to basically be using my healing brush, my paintbrush, and my clone stamp. Those are pretty much the main tools that I'll be using here in case I have to do any like major modifications. Click on my healing brush over here. If I make it bigger there, it's a modified healing brush. It's basically angled 45 degrees and its roundness is set to 10%. Basically because I'm doing most of my retouching on a mouse and I'm right-handed, so we'll get right into here and we'll start the face here. Now there's nothing too difficult about using your healing brush to heal blemishes. If you're not familiar with the tool, you just hit your Alt key and you see the little target button that comes up there and you select a good area of texture and you're going to paint over the bad area of texture, just like that. The trick to this tool is you want to take your sample from a nearby area of skin texture, just because you wouldn't want to, say, use a texture up here on the forehead to clean a texture down here, because the textures are totally different. So we'll go ahead and fix that by sampling from here and painting over there. So I'll go ahead and do a little bit of that. This image doesn't have too much detail, so it should be fairly easy to do a skin retouch. So I'll go ahead and finish up the healing layer and I'll speed through this. Feel free to pause the video at any time if you want to take a second to breeze through and see where I'm at on this, and I'll come back to it. finished up our retouching. Pretty much got all of our distractions and blemishes out of the way, and we can move forward to our next step. First, we're going to take our brush tool. We're going to create a new layer. Oh, sorry about that. We're going to create a new layer, and we're going to select a color in the skin that kind of represents the overall skin tone or the skin color. I usually like to find it right on top of the cheeks here. It's a nice little bright tone. And we're going to set our opacity to 10%. And I'm just going to use this and lightly brush over all of the skin just to kind of even out the tones a little bit. And it'll also soften up the skin too. I'll also open up some of the shadows and help blend some of those shadows into the highlights so you don't have such harsh transitions. There we go. Okay. We can see the difference that makes. And we can go ahead and darken our shadows once we get into our next section here, which would be our dodge and burn. So dodge and burn is critical because it's like contouring. It gives the illusion of depth. So things that are darker are further away from you, and things that are lighter are closer to you. Makeup artists are very familiar with this term. Anyone who knows how to contour their makeup, it's the exact same principle, except you're doing it to all the parts of the body. You know, get a sense of texture and kind of feel the image. So how we do that is we'll go and we'll take a curves adjustment layer, and we'll label this dodge, and we're going to take the finger tool here, and we'll click on the lightest area of skin that we have, and we're going to drag up a little bit, maybe about right there, and we're going to invert this mask so we can paint it back in later. So we're going to hit Control Command I. I'll select it first, and it'll blacken, put a black mask over this so we can paint it back in later. Now we're going to do the same thing for our burn layer. Select a curves adjustment. I'm going to call this burn, and we're going to take our finger tool. We're going to select on the darkest color of skin, and you'll usually find that in the shadows. Let's try here, and we're going to invert this as well. So we're going to hit Control Command I. There we go. And now let's group these two, put them into a folder, and we'll label this DB for dodge and burn. Let's open that right back up. Now let's start with our dodge layer. Now we'll grab our brush tool, and we'll make sure our foreground is set to white so we can paint in the effect of our dodge where we want it. So basically we're just going to be contouring the skin. Let's start with the face. Now our opacity, I like to keep mine somewhere between 10 and 12%. And we'll go ahead and we want to lighten the areas of the skin that sticks out towards you, the tops of the cheeks, but we're going to darken the contours of the cheek and shadows of the cheek. We're going to lighten the bridge of the nose, and we're going to darken the sides of the nose to make it a little more defined. So I'll give an example here. We're going to lighten this area, darken this area, darken this area, lighten this area. And we're just going to make it really subtle. And this area, the dodge and burn can also be used to fix blemishes and dodge out black spots or things like that, like this area here, to kind of make the skin look a little more flawless and give it a little more even tone. You can also use your dodge and burn to reshape areas. Basically everything is light. Light determines how all shapes or anything that we actually see is perceived. All right, lighten that up. Now we'll take our burn and we'll even out the shape of the nose with our shadows. And there we go. Now we can see once we turn that on and off, we can see we've defined the nose a little better and it stands out. So I'll go ahead and run through the dodge and burn over the entire image, and you can follow along. Feel free to pause whenever you'd like. Alright, so now I think we pretty much finished up our dodge and burn there. I'll just go ahead and darken some outside areas around the pool here a little bit. There we go. And now we're going to move into our color correcting stage, because color correction is pretty much where you get to have a little fun and be a little experimental. You want to make sure that your colors are compelling and sort of draw your viewer's attention. As you can see, that's before and after on our dodge and burn. See, our dodge and burn really channels your focus right into the center of the image. And we can see how far we've come from the beginning. This is our original image, and this is where we're at now. Let's start our color correction there. And I might just bring down my burn a little bit. So the best thing about these adjustment layers, you can go back and adjust them however you want later on. First thing I want to do, I want to add a vibrance layer. Let's go ahead and bring our vibrance up a little bit. Bring it down to about 30%. And on top of the vibrance layer, I'm going to add a selective color. And let's start with my reds. Bump this down a little bit here. And add a little more red tones via the magenta. Put it about there. Drop our yellows down a little bit out of the reds. And we're going to darken that overall. About right there. Let's go to our yellow palette. Increase the reds and our yellows a little bit from here. And just increase our yellows a little bit there. And brighten it up somewhere around here. Now let's go to our blues. Now we're going to increase this here. Basically, it's almost increasing the vibrancy of the blue. I'm going to bring that up to about 80%. And we're going to add some green in there. About 36. Yeah, that's about good right there. Throw some yellows in there a little bit as well. And then we're going to drop the whole thing down and make it dark. Let's add a little more green, a little more yellow, and darken it up a little bit more. Now let's go to our neutrals palette. See how that looks so far. Coming along okay. I think still a little pink here in the middle. Let's go to our neutrals. Drop that down a little bit. And let's add a black and white layer on top. And we're just going to use this black and white layer to adjust our colors a little bit. Let's bring this down about here. Drop that down. And we're going to drop the opacity down of this layer to about 18%. So just to tone that vibrancy down, and then I can bring my colors back. All right, now we're going to add a channel mixer. Now on our red channel, we're just going to decrease our greens a little bit. We're going to increase our reds. And let's decrease our reds a little bit. And we'll leave the blue the same. Let's go over to our blue channel now. And let's get some of those yellows back in there. We'll drop this down to about 75, 70. Yeah, that's good. We'll bring it back up into our reds. And let's drop our greens down a little bit. Channel mixer, and we're gonna blend this to soft light. Blend it soft light and drop our opacity down. And let's see, about right there. And I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Still think there's a little more reds in there, so we're going to take our selective color and go back to our reds. And we're going to add some yellows to our reds. Cool. So now we're gonna take our, might be a little too much. Let's brighten up our yellows a little bit. There we go. Now we're gonna take all of our adjustment layers here. We're gonna group them. That way we have all of our color adjustments. We'll call this CC for color correction. Now I'm going to add a little high dynamic range. I'm going to click on any layer. We're going to go to Image, Adjustments, HDR Toning. This is just kind of my thing I kind of do to my images. Give it a little more dynamic range. So to adjust this, we're going to, let's see, bring our detail down to about 20%. Saturation, we'll bring that down to about 5. Now, we'll bring our shadows down to 0, and we're going to bring our curve way down. That looks about right to me. Now you can see how much it makes the image pop just by adding that dynamic range in there. We'll actually drop our saturation. No, we'll leave a saturation there. That's cool. And we'll click OK. So as you can see, it merged all of our layers into one. So how I'll get this back into my original file is I'll hit Control A, copy this layer, Control C, and then I'll just back up. And then paste this right on top of all of my layers. And there I can see my difference. There you go. And now our next step would be to sharpen our image. And sharpening an image is usually the last step. It's kind of like putting your finishing coat of sealant on your new fresh floors or something like that. So what we'll do is we'll go here, Filter, Sharpen, and I like to use Smart Sharpen. Now, Smart Sharpen is based on the resolution and the detail in your image. This image isn't too detailed, so I would probably drop my radius down to 1, 2. And I'll keep my sharpening amount here on 240 with about 10 to 12% noise reduction, just so we don't over sharpen areas of the pores or areas of the skin that we might not want to have looking like this here, where it's you can look like it's over grainy, something like that. So let's bump our noise reduction up a little bit. No, we'll put that maybe 13%, and we'll drop our sharpening down to about 230. There we go, and click OK. All right, now that we got our image sharpened here, we can go ahead and kind of browse around the image and look for things to fine tune and make sure you pretty much have the image as a whole how you want to, put it out and display it. So I'm just gonna go in and look for small things like this here. Get rid of that, and I'll go ahead and whiten up the eyes a little and whiten up the teeth. So how I'll do that is first I'll take my lasso tool, drop it down to about 1 pixels, and I'm gonna go ahead and just select the whites of the eyes. Don't have to be too precise here. Let's add that to our selection. And we'll go ahead and put the whites of the teeth in there as well too. And how we want to do this, and we want to whiten the eyes and make sure they still look realistic, so we'll take our vibrance. We're just going to pull the vibrance down just a little bit. That's good enough for me. Deselect. Now we have our eyes whitened. Now I want to highlight the color in the eyes a little bit, so I'm going to take my dodge tool and I'm going to go highlights, and I want to bring out the pop in the eyes just a little bit more. So I'm going to tap in here a little bit just to make the eyes pop a little more. And then we want to paint and kind of get rid of some of the distortion and some of the veins in the eyes there. So we'll go ahead and select a neutral color in the eye here. Let's go brighten that up a little bit. Take some color out. And we'll take our paintbrush tool and we'll put on 10%. And we'll just go ahead and paint in here. Just a little bit. Just until these shapes aren't so distracting. And then blending the tones and the colors of the eyes as well too. Alright, so there we have it. The only thing left that I would do to this image is I want to bring the red and the lips out a little more and then brighten up the highlights of the skin. So how I'm going to do that, I'll go to filter, go to camera raw filter actually. And there's a lot of powerful color correction tools you can use in camera raw. It's the reason why I usually set up my images through camera raw first. And then that makes it very minimal retouching you have to do once you get it inside of Photoshop. So what we'll do, we'll go over to our colors here and I want to brighten up my yellows. So I'll do that. And then I want to saturate my reds. Reds in the lips a little bit. And I want to bring the color down in the reds a little more pink. So we'll drop that down just about a -3. And let's actually brighten our reds up a little too. There we go, and we just click OK. And that's pretty much it. You can see here that the pool is a little dark. You can't really tell that it's a blue mosaic tile pool in the background, but that's kind of the cool effect. You can't tell whether or not she's standing or floating out of the water. And you got a nice little highlight back here too. I would probably sit on this image for a little bit and play around with some colors, like maybe paint and some light around here with my paintbrush like this. Probably add a little more color to it. Let's see here. Just to have a little fun with the image there, but there's many different things you can do to the image after you finish it up. You can add some color down here as well too, just to kind of soften that up and keep your focus to the center of the image. So we can see here, this is our final image, and we'll look back at our original image here. So this is our before and this is our after. So you can see that we did a lot of lighting adjustments and a lot of reshaping and toning to kind of direct the attention of the image, and that's pretty much it. So appreciate you sitting through this with me, and we'll get into our next video.